The engine clattered violently like it was screaming for help. The black Porsche 911 pulled into the lot of a small, weather-beaten auto shop on the outskirts of town, its hood belching faint smoke. The driver, a clean-cut man in a tailored navy suit, slammed the door shut with visible irritation. He glanced around at the dusty garage, then down at the grease-streaked concrete, and finally at the man who stood near the open bay with a wrench in hand, wiping sweat off his forehead. "You've got to be kidding me," the man scoffed. "This is the shop they recommended." The mechanic looked up. He was in his late 40s, wearing a faded gray jumpsuit, boots scuffed from years of labor, and a backwards cap. His name tag read Cole. "You need help?" Cole asked, casually leaning against the workbench. The man grimaced. "I need a real mechanic, not some back-alley amateur who probably changes oil for pocket change." Cole didn't flinch. He walked over, wiping his hands on a rag. "I've worked on engines like that more times than I can count." "Pop the hood." The man hesitated, then hit the latch. "If you scratch it, I'll bill you," he sneered. "Do you even know what a turbocharger looks like? Or do you just pretend for people too poor to afford better?" Cole ignored the jab and peered under the hood. "Smells like a blown valve. Could be deeper. You've been riding it hard. None of your business." The man snapped. "Just fix it, and make it quick. I've got a meeting at 5 with people who wouldn't be caught dead in a dump like this." Cole straightened up slowly. "Won't be quick. You're looking at internal damage. Could be the heads. Could be the pistons. You're stalling. Figures. You people love wasting time." Cole blinked slowly. "You people." "Yeah." The man grinned smugly, eyes scanning Cole's wrinkled shirt and grease-stained hands. "Washed-up losers. Probably dropped out of school. Joined a gang. Or just didn't have the brains for anything real." Cole's jaw tensed. His eyes narrowed ever so slightly, but his voice remained level. "It's going to take 3 hours to tear down the engine. Maybe more. I don't rush a job that could kill someone on the highway. I didn't come here to be lectured by a gas station janitor. Just do your job, grease monkey. Or should I find someone competent?" From behind Cole, a younger mechanic, Mason, barely 22, stood frozen. His knuckles were white around a socket wrench. "Yo, Cole," Mason whispered. "You want me to?" Cole raised a hand gently. "It's all right." But the customer wouldn't stop. "This place reeks of poverty. How can you people live like this? You wouldn't last 1 minute in my world." "You think turning wrenches is hard? Try managing a 7-figure portfolio and negotiating deals in Milan and Tokyo." Cole stepped closer, calm and silent. Then with slow, deliberate motion, he rolled up the sleeve of his jumpsuit. Tattooed across his upper arm, clear as day, was the emblem of the Honest Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, the black dagger and lightning bolt of Delta Force. The smug look slid off the customer's face like oil on glass. "You ever negotiate in Fallujah?" Cole said softly. "You ever see what happens to a convoy when it hits an IED? Ever drag your wounded brothers out of burning Humvees while taking sniper fire from 3 directions?" The man's mouth opened. No sound came out. Cole pointed to another tattoo beneath the dagger, a set of coordinates. "That's where we lost Daniels. Shot protecting civilians during a raid. I carried his body 2 miles on foot to keep it from being desecrated." Mason stepped forward. "Sir, you're standing in front of a guy who took a bullet to the ribs and didn't stop fighting. He saved a whole unit when the comms went dark and extraction was compromised. That's why this shop exists. He built it for the families of the ones who didn't come home." The customer looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. Cole folded his sleeve back down. "You're not the first to mistake silence for ignorance, but you'll be the last to insult this shop." The man cleared his throat. I didn't know. You didn't ask," Cole said, then turned back toward the Porsche. "Now, do you want it fixed? Or do you want to tow it to a dealership where a kid fresh out of tech school will charge you double to misdiagnose it?" The man swallowed hard. "Fix it, please. And next time, Cole added without looking back, remember, respect doesn't come from money. It comes from how you treat people. The man nodded, humbled, and stepped aside as Cole and Mason went to work. The air was thick with something unspoken, not just shame, but revelation. For the first time in a long time, the man looked around and really saw the place. The faded photos of soldiers on the wall, the rack of folded American flags, the quiet dignity in the way every tool had its place. And Cole, not just a mechanic, but a soldier, a leader, a hero. And from that day on, word spread, not about the Porsche, not even about the tattoo, but about the lesson that you never know who someone really is until you take the time to look deeper. The engine hissed as Cole gently lowered the hood, resting his gloved hands on the edge for a long moment. His expression was unreadable, but behind his calm eyes lived the storms of memories few would ever understand. The customer, Nathaniel Crane, stood with his designer shoes on the dusty concrete, arms crossed, awkwardly, the weight of embarrassment sitting heavy on his shoulders. Mason watched him like a hawk, still tense. "You sure you want to work on that guy's car, boss?" Cole gave a soft grunt, then moved toward the tool chest, pulling open drawers with practiced ease. "Mason, in the field, you learn real quick that pride gets people killed. What matters is getting the job done." "But he talked to you like you were trash." "Man, he talked to who he thought I was," Cole replied. "Choosing a ratchet and a torque wrench. Let him learn different." Nathaniel's voice came quietly, tentative. "I didn't know you were in the military." Cole didn't look up. "You didn't care." The words landed hard. Nathaniel fumbled for a comeback, but there was none. He adjusted his cufflink out of habit, only to realize how hollow that gesture felt now. "Can I wait inside or something?" he muttered. Cole nodded to the corner of the shop. "Bench over there. Don't touch the coffee machine. It's older than you." Nathaniel obeyed, sitting gingerly as if afraid grease might stain his suit permanently. He watched as Cole and Mason began dismantling the engine block. The sound of tools clicking and metal clinking echoed through the garage. Time passed slowly, and for the first time in years, Nathaniel had nothing to do. No calls, no emails, no staff running around. He found himself watching Cole work. The man moved with the quiet confidence of someone who knew every bolt, every wire. There was no waste in his motion, no hesitation, just purpose. Mason passed him parts with wordless understanding, and the two operated in perfect sync. "Who taught you mechanics?" Nathaniel asked, finally. Cole didn't look up. "Army. We didn't always have support, had to fix our own gear in the field. Try repairing a Humvee axle under enemy fire." Mason chuckled. "I've seen him rebuild a transmission faster than most guys tie their shoes." Nathaniel leaned back. "You own this shop. Built it after I retired. Something steady, something real." Nathaniel nodded slowly. "It's impressive." Cole wiped his hands and looked over. "You ever been impressed by a janitor before?" Nathaniel winced. "Look, I'm sorry. What I said, you said what you meant. That's what matters." Cole approached slowly, eyes steady. "Let me guess. Ivy League, private school, never missed a meal." Nathaniel shifted uncomfortably. "My dad was a hedge fund guy. I followed in his footsteps. And you're what, 35, 37? You ever break a sweat for money?" Nathaniel's silence was answer enough. Cole pointed to the car. "That machine, built for people who think power is luxury. But real power is control under pressure, not just speed. Balance, discipline. You can't buy that in a showroom." Nathaniel looked down at his polished shoes. "I thought I earned respect by working hard, climbing up." Cole shook his head. "You think being rich is hard work. Try holding your friend's intestines in with your bare hands while calling for a medevac. Try sleeping next to an ammo crate in a jungle where the enemy speaks your language better than you do. Try coming home and finding out the country you nearly died for sees you as just another grease monkey." Nathaniel's throat tightened. "I've never had to." "Exactly," Cole said quietly. "So maybe next time, don't lead with your resume. Lead with decency." They fell into silence again. broken only by the rhythmic clink of metal. After a while, Mason turned the radio on low. Classic rock crackled through the speakers. Nathaniel watched them work for over an hour, mesmerized. Eventually, he stood and wandered the garage. He paused at the wall where photos hung, black and white snapshots of young soldiers, names etched underneath. Some were in fatigues, others beside armored vehicles, others still in candid moments, laughing, smoking, playing cards. A few had red stickers over the corners. "What do the red ones mean?" he asked softly. "Didn't come home," Cole said, voice rougher now. Nathaniel swallowed hard. "I had no idea. You didn't ask." Nathaniel turned, his voice catching. "Can I do something? Help with the repairs, maybe?" Mason arched a brow. "You touch a wrench. I thought your hands were insured." Cole smirked faintly. "Let him try. Worse that happens. We gotta redo it." So began the slowest, messiest, and most educational hour of Nathaniel's life. He fumbled bolts, dropped tools, got oil on his sleeve, and nearly stripped a screw. But he listened. He asked. He didn't scoff, and for the first time in his adult life, he worked with his hands. By the time the sun dipped low, casting orange light across the dusty lot, the Porsche was back together, humming smoothly. Cleaner than it had sounded in months. Cole wiped his brow. "She's good now. But drive her easy for a few weeks. No high revs." Nathaniel nodded, wiping his hands on a rag. "Thank you for everything." Cole leaned back, studying him. "You different now?" Nathaniel nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think I am." Cole walked him to the car. "Then maybe you'll be the kind of guy who doesn't forget where respect begins." Nathaniel reached into his wallet, pulled out a thick stack of hundreds. Cole raised a hand. "Nope," Nathaniel blinked. "But you want to pay me, pay it forward. Find someone who doesn't have your last name or your bank account. Treat them like they matter. That's the only price that counts." Nathaniel stood silent for a long moment. Then he folded the money away, and he nodded. As he slid behind the wheel, he paused. "Hey, Cole." "Yeah, those coordinates. You ever go back?" Cole stared into the distance. "Every year, bring a beer for Daniels. Sit by the dirt. Tell him what's new." Nathaniel hesitated. "Next time, can I come with you?" Cole's eyes met his. Something passed between them. Not forgiveness, not friendship, but something deeper. "Maybe," Cole said. The engine roared to life, and as the Porsche rolled out of the lot, it carried not just a repaired engine, but a changed man. Nathaniel Crane never forgot the day he mocked a mechanic, only to find a warrior. And he never forgot what it felt like to earn a little humility, one bolt at a time. That night, Nathaniel didn't go straight home. The silence in his car, a silence usually filled with conference calls, music, or the buzz of deals being made, felt strange. His hands were still grimy, a smear of grease under his fingernail. But he didn't rush to clean it off. He stopped instead at the city overlook, where you could see the lights of downtown blinking against the horizon. He sat there, engine off, hands resting on the wheel. His reflection stared back from the windshield, but he didn't recognize it. The man in the glass wasn't polished, wasn't smug. He looked human, humbled. The words Cole said kept echoing in his head. "You didn't care. You think being rich is hard work. You didn't ask." Nathaniel clenched the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. He thought of his father, a man who once told him, "You're not here to make friends. You're here to win." But something about Cole, the steady strength in him, the grief wrapped in honor, the quiet dignity, it shattered every arrogant blueprint Nathaniel had ever followed. The next morning, Nathaniel stood outside a small brownstone, with a box of muffins in one hand and coffee in the other. He rang the bell and waited. The door opened, and Cole stood there, still in his worn jumpsuit, holding a wrench in one hand. "You get lost, city boy?" he asked. "I wanted to say thank you again, and I didn't want it to be in passing." Cole glanced at the box. Bribery. Apology. Cole opened the door wider. "Come in. Just don't spill coffee on the couch. My dog will judge you." Inside, the house was modest, but it told a story. Shadow boxes filled with medals and patches, photos of men in uniforms, some with eyes full of youth, others marked by fatigue. There were framed letters, some official commendations, others handwritten, yellowed with time. In one corner sat a dusty guitar, strings half broken. On the coffee table was a half-finished model of a military helicopter. Nathaniel sat gingerly, suddenly feeling overdressed in his blazer. "You live here alone?" he asked. Cole shrugged. "Used to be my wife and I. She left 3 years ago. Said I never came back from war. Not really. She wasn't wrong." Nathaniel nodded, unsure of what to say. Cole sipped his coffee. "I didn't invite you in for sympathy. So, what's really going on?" Nathaniel took a deep breath. "I don't know who I am anymore. Yesterday, what you said, what I saw, it messed with me. I always thought being successful meant being above everyone. Faster, smarter, richer. That's not success. That's ego. I see that now." Cole leaned forward. "So, what are you going to do about it?" Nathaniel looked up. "I don't know. You could start by listening." "To who?" "To people you've never listened to before." Nathaniel sat in silence for a long time, then nodded. "Can I come by the shop again?" "What for?" "I want to learn." Cole narrowed his eyes. "You want to be a mechanic. I want to understand. You. The world I never looked at twice." Cole leaned back. "You can come by, but I won't baby you. You'll mop floors, clean oil pans, and sweat through your shirt. No boardrooms here. I wouldn't ask for anything else." And so began a strange transformation. Nathaniel started showing up at Cole's shop every weekend. The first day, Mason burst out laughing when he saw him in coveralls. "Yo, rich boy, you lost." Nathaniel smiled. "No, just late." He scrubbed tools, sorted parts, and endured endless teasing. But Cole watched and saw something genuine forming, not just guilt, growth. The man who once mocked him was listening now, working with his hands, learning torque ratios, engine configurations, even how to spot a worn serpentine belt. One day, while they worked under a Ford F-150, Nathaniel asked, "Why'd you get out?" "The Army." Cole's voice came from the other side of the truck. "Too many ghosts. I still see Daniels in my dreams. Sometimes, I still smell the sand burning." "Do you ever wish you hadn't gone?" Cole rolled out and sat up. "No, I'd do it all again. But it cost me parts of myself I'll never get back." Nathaniel hesitated. "I've got a question. It's personal." "Try me." "Who was Daniels?" Cole's eyes flicked to the wall. "My best friend. Grew up together, enlisted together. He died shielding a mother and her 2 kids during a raid. Sniper caught him in the throat. He didn't even flinch." Nathaniel's voice dropped. "I'm sorry." "You want to be sorry? Help me rebuild the veteran wing at the hospital. They're short on funds." Bureaucracy strangled the last donation campaign. Nathaniel sat up straighter. "You're serious. You've got the connections. I've got the cause." Nathaniel grinned. "Then let's make it happen." That was the moment it all shifted. Together, they started something bigger. Nathaniel leveraged his business ties, pulling in sponsors. Cole brought the story, the grit, the honor. Together, they spoke at charity events. Nathaniel learned to speak from the heart, not just from a teleprompter. Weeks later, at a fundraising gala, Nathaniel wore a modest suit, no tie, and beside him, in full dress blues, stood Cole. The crowd listened in dead silence as Cole told Daniel's story, his voice trembling only once. Afterward, a woman approached with tears in her eyes. "My son served too," she said. "Thank you for remembering him." Cole nodded. "We don't forget our own." As the months passed, their bond deepened. Mason once caught them bickering over carburetor specs and laughed. "You two sound like an old married couple." Cole just rolled his eyes. "He's all right for a suit." One afternoon, while cleaning out a back room at the shop, Nathaniel found an old journal tucked behind some boxes. Inside were letters, ones Daniels wrote but never sent. One, written a week before he died, was addressed to Cole. "If something happens to me, don't shut down, don't disappear. You've got more to give, brother. Show the world who you are when the war's over." Nathaniel handed the letter to Cole in silence. Cole didn't say a word, just sat there, holding it like something sacred. That night, he drove alone to those same coordinates inked on his arm, sat in the dirt with a beer, and for the first time in years, he spoke to Daniels without breaking. The sky above the coordinates was vast and silent, painted in dusky hues of orange and gold. Cole sat cross-legged on the patch of dry earth that had never stopped feeling like sacred ground. The desert wind brushed softly against his face, carrying the same silence he'd heard that night, the silence after Daniels fell. He placed the letter on the ground, anchored by a small rock, and set down the beer beside it. His voice came low, gravelly. "You were right, Danny. I shut down. I thought I was doing the right thing, keeping my head down, fixing engines, surviving day by day. But I wasn't living, not really." He looked off toward the horizon. "But I met someone, of all people, a suit, rich, arrogant, clueless. And somehow, he reminded me that not everyone who's blind chooses to be. Some just never had their eyes opened." Cole ran his hand over the dirt like he was smoothing a blanket. "He wants to help. And this time, I'm not pushing it away. Feels like you'd be laughing at me right now. The grease monkey and the Wall Street prince. Starting a nonprofit, you'd say." His voice cracked slightly. "But it's working. We raised over $100,000 for the hospital. And next month, we're opening a wing in your name." He stared at the beer can, unopened. "You'd want me to drink it, wouldn't you? Even warm." He cracked it open and took a long, bitter sip. The taste brought memories of campfires, of dusty outposts, of laughter in the darkest places. Cole stood up slowly. "I miss you, brother. But I think I'm ready to stop carrying the guilt like armor." He turned and walked back to his truck, the wind brushing behind him. Somewhere in the stillness, it felt like Daniels was smiling. Back in the city, Nathaniel was at the hospital watching the new signs go up, the Daniels ward, in honor of those who served and sacrificed. A local reporter approached him. "Mr. Crane, you funded this. What changed your focus from finance to veterans?" Nathaniel smiled slightly. "A mechanic," he said simply. "A mechanic changed my life." The reporter blinked. "That's unexpected. He taught me more in 3 months than any professor ever did. About sacrifice, about dignity, about respect." The woman smiled. "Will he be here today?" Nathaniel looked down the street and spotted the familiar, battered pickup pulling into the lot. "Yeah, that's him." Cole stepped out, dressed in a simple charcoal shirt and jeans. No medals, no uniform. Just a man who had earned respect, not by flashing credentials, but by living through what most never could. When he walked into the ward, the hospital staff applauded softly. Nathaniel handed him a folded plaque. "I had this made for you." Cole read it, then swallowed hard. "To Sergeant Cole Whitaker, for valor, service, and continued dedication to those who still fight battles we cannot see." He looked at Nathaniel, eyes glistening. "Thank you." Daniels would have been proud, Nathaniel said. Cole's voice was quiet. "So would your father." Nathaniel looked away for a moment, fighting emotion. He never thought I could be more than just a number chaser. "But for once, I think I'm doing something that matters." "You are," Cole said, placing a hand on his shoulder. Later that evening, as the event wrapped up, a woman approached them both. She was in her 60s, with silver hair and eyes the color of storm clouds. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said. "I'm Angela Daniels." "Danny was my son." Cole froze. He stared at her, breath catching. "Ma'am, one." She stepped forward and embraced him before he could say another word. "He wrote about you. Every letter said you were the one he trusted most, that if anything happened, you'd carry his memory. You did that more than anyone could ask." Cole's shoulders shook. "I didn't save him. You saved what he stood for," she whispered. "That's more than most ever do." Nathaniel watched the exchange, his chest tight with emotion. At that moment, everything clicked. The past, the present, the path ahead. 6 months later, The shop looked different. The walls were freshly painted. A new sign read, Whitaker and Crane Automotive, Service with Honor. Veterans now worked in the bays. Men and women who once wore uniforms and now turned wrenches with pride. There was a scholarship fund for young mechanics who had served, and every first Friday, they did free repairs for veterans who couldn't afford it. Nathaniel showed up at 7:00 a.m. sharp every Saturday, no longer in a suit, but in the same blue coveralls as everyone else. Grease under his nails, calluses on his fingers, and respect in his heart. He was no longer just a man who made money. He was a man who made things better. One afternoon, Mason approached with a smirk. "Hey, Cole, you ever think we'd see the day Crane here rebuilt a carburetor?" Cole looked over from under the hood of a Camaro. "Not in this lifetime." Nathaniel raised a wrench like a trophy. "I got it to idle perfectly." Cole arched a brow. "Did you? Let's fire it up and see if it doesn't blow the exhaust off." The engine roared to life. Smooth, clean, no misfire. Mason let out a low whistle. Okay, suit's got skills now." Nathaniel grinned. "Told you, don't judge a book by its bank account." Cole clapped him on the back. "You've come a long way, Crane." Nathaniel nodded. "So have you." And in the break room, above the coffee machine that still hissed like a dying dragon, was a framed photo. Daniels and Cole, arms slung over each other's shoulders, both grinning like kids who didn't know what fate had in store. Below it, a quote, "Respect isn't given. It's earned, one act of courage at a time." And just like that, in a small garage that once smelled of rust and memory, two men, one broken by war, the other blinded by privilege, built something stronger than any engine. They built redemption, together, and neither would ever be mocked again.